As a working class kid growing up, I was told if I worked really hard, I could get to where I wanted. But they left out a couple important points from this promise. First, for many people, hard work alone is not enough to overcome the barriers that we might face in our lives. And secondly, even if we do overcome those barriers, we find ourselves in middle-class spaces where you wonder, do I fit in? You often will feel like a cultural outsider. So I'm what's called a straddler. I have one foot in the working class world in which I was raised, and I have another foot in the middle class culture and the professional world. If you're a first generation college student or a straddler, you often wonder how you fit into this picture because it can feel like a cultural mismatch. So you ask yourself questions like, do I belong here in my new social class? How do I relate to my roots? It's a journey of upward mobility that is filled with excitement because of the potential that it could be, but at the same time, it's often plagued with self-doubt. So as a sociologist, I study class inequality and class cultures. And I've come to learn a lot about the differences between the working class culture and middle class culture. So I want to share some of these with you right now. So in the working class, when speaking, people are more direct and to the point. We tend to call it like it is. We, when speaking, are more likely to end our sentences with the phrase, you know, or wouldn't you? See, this invites emotional connection and agreement within the group because in working class culture, the group is prioritized over the individual self. We're much more likely to spend a lot of time with extended family, just hanging out, than we are in organized activities. We value sincerity, straightforwardness, humility, and hard work. We're not afraid of dirty jobs. Now, research on the middle class shows that middle class culture looks a little bit different. So through formal training and how middle class children are raised, they learn broader vocabularies and enjoy using those bigger words in conversation. They're more likely to begin their sentences with the phrase, I think, which differentiates themselves from their audience and asserts their individuality, which is more valued in middle class culture. Middle class parents also enroll their children in a ton of organized activities. This helps middle class children to learn how to manage their time, to look people in the eye, and how to navigate formal settings like a college campus. Middle class parents have been to college, so they teach their children to go after what they want, to ask their professors for extra help, to how to navigate financial aid. This gives them the confidence that they need to seek that help, which is really important so that they can be successful students, but in some cases can come across as a sense of entitlement to working class people. So sometimes with that foot in the middle class, I also find myself getting invited to fancy dinners. And I'll be honest with you, I still don't know which fork to use. But I'm overwhelmed by the opportunities that are presented to me in my new social class. I know that for my friends and family in the working class, doors are not opening for the same way for them as they are for me in my new social class. And at the same time, I sometimes hear some middle class people make comments looking down at middle class culture or judging working class people. Occasionally I hear things like, well, if they want to do better, why don't they just try harder? Why are they so lazy? They're so trashy. These comments suggest that those people don't necessarily know what life is like further down the social ladder. And these comments are really painful. So what's my point here? Okay, so my middle class students and colleagues, get to know people whose life's experiences are so different from your own. We as a college campus can do a lot better if we get to know the working class culture of our students, of our first gen students, to help them to succeed. And middle class students might find that you can be a better friend to a peer, to a classmate whose life experiences are so different from your own. Second, to my first gen working class students, straddler friends and colleagues, college life in the professional world is dominated by middle class culture, norms, and values. For those raised in the middle class, they have a leg up in getting ahead because they've been socialized into these unwritten rules that they're not even aware that they're fluent in. For the rest of us, this world can feel like a foreign world there will be times where you feel like an imposter and you might be plagued with self-doubt. So for first-gen students and straddlers, we need to learn the language of these unwritten rules, and at the same time, we don't have to forget our roots. You should take pride in your working class background because it gives you strength. Come find us fellow straddlers, and together we can learn to uncover the unwritten rules. We can take the best of both cultural worlds, and we can learn to code switch and integrate the best of these cultural worlds into our own lives, all while lifting people up around us. So, to my first-gen students, no matter how foreign this world might feel, no matter how much you might feel self-doubts or feel imposter syndrome, you belong too.